All right, welcome to our week 3 Mully's Money Picks. What's up, Jason? How you doing?
Hey Sam, how we doing this week?
Doing well. So we're changing up the format a little this week. Previously, Jason was putting together tiers of players, but we decided to focus in more on just a couple players per position to give you those better picks each week, give you some better direction. Jason, you want to talk a little bit more about what we're doing?
Yeah. Well, ordinarily this is where I would introduce you to this week's fantasy haiku, and no worries, that will be returning next week. But basically, I wanted to change the format, and I talked a little bit about it in the article this week. What we have now, instead of just simply listing a couple tiers of players, is what I like to call money in the bank picks, and then your coin flips. On the one hand, money in the bank are players that may cost a little bit more, but are worth what their salary is based on what the what they should have or what the production should be for the week. On the other hand, your coin flips are guys a little further down in the rankings a bit, guys that you could save a little money on, but could potentially blow up in a given week. Those might be a bit more of like your contrarian picks for some of these GPP tournaments. So we're trying out a new format. Definitely hit us up in the comment section and let us know if you like it and like the way things are going for us.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate the feedback and we'll keep it coming. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's happened so far this year and give some perspective on GPPs and giving yourself the best chance to succeed. The first thing I want to say is don't chase TDs from the previous week. It's really difficult to do, but stick with who you believe in as opposed to what happened last week. And on this flip side, don't be afraid to go for people that didn't perform last week because a lot of times those are the contrarian plays that'll get you ahead as other people to stay away from those people.
Absolutely.
All right. And then winning lineups. Looking at the winning lineups of the many tournaments we've started so far this year, average winning lineup is scoring 219 and going up to 231. So average points per position, 24 points per position. And in breaking down some of those lineups, your quarterback pretty much has to have a big day, 3 to 4 TDs, 300 yards plus. You have to pretty much have your position players scoring at least a TD with 100 yards. So you can't hold back in these GPPs. You've got to go for it. You got to make some plays that other people won't make and give yourself an advantage somewhere. And that's what we're trying to do is give you that advantage. Anything to add, Jason?
No, that was pretty well put. We'll get a little bit more. Once we get into it, like we always do, we discuss the picks each and every week and kind of give you our top plays and then maybe our lower tier kind of guys. So as we go through it, you'll kind of see how it works, and we'll get you some of those contrarian picks. So I think it'll all shake out, but you hit it right on the head.
All right, great. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's talk about your money in the bank pick at the RB position.
This week, I am going with my guy, Giovanni Bernard. Look, last week, he didn't put up a ridiculous amount of yards. He did, however, get a ridiculous amount of targets out of the backfield. We have A.J. Green that left that game with a toe injury, and from what the reports indicate, right now he's not been practicing in full. In fact, just today, Thursday here, he hasn't fully practiced yet this week. So he may be limited or maybe not even play at all this weekend. I like Bernard's chances of getting a lot of touches, a lot of carries, and also a lot of receptions out of the backfield. And as we've discussed before, this new system with having 1 point per reception as opposed to a half a point makes a big difference. So, I'm going for the targets, and I'm going for Bernard.
Yeah, and just because he didn't put up 100 rushing yards, he put up a ton of points, and it was the receptions and the combination of passing and rushing. He seems like a good play, especially with Green out. I've become a believer in DeMarco Murray. I've had him in some season-long leagues in the past. I just felt like he was going to fade, but if you look at his track record over the past 7 games, in daily fantasy he's killed it, and he just keeps producing. Unfortunately, his DraftKings salary is now reflected in that. I think he's top of the list at 7,900 with Marshawn Lynch, so he's not a value pick, but I'm going to have a hard time keeping him out of my lineups. I think he's someone to definitely look at, and he produces. And somehow Dallas has become a running team. I don't know how, but man, that offensive line is shaping up. They're big, and he just keeps getting his touches, and they become a really nice running team. All right, so your coin flip in the RB. Once again, you had to get a Colt in here.
You know what? This one, I realize this again. It seems like a Colts homer, but hear me out. If you watched the game that just occurred on Monday Night Football, you saw that Trent Richardson actually was producing a little bit better, but Ahmad Bradshaw still appears to be the better back on the team. He's also preferred in 2-minute scenarios, hurry-up offense scenarios, and he's the third down or passing down back. So the guy's getting a ton of touches and a ton of reps, and he's a trusted target for Andrew Luck on that offense. When you look at a matchup like this one against Jacksonville with that potent offense, I expect them to run the ball a lot. I expect them to be up and just to keep both the running backs in the game. Right now, Trent Richardson is a little bit more than Bradshaw, so I'm going Bradshaw all the way this week.
Yeah, I agree. He's strong when he's healthy, and he does look good, and he is a dual threat. He's a little bit of a Bernard in him, so I can't fault you for it. I think that RBs this week, people are going to be heavy on Niall Davis. He's going to get a lot of play. He's a pretty good value. I think he's around 5,200. You're probably going to have to put him in your lineup. He's probably not as much of a coin flip, but he's not a guaranteed thing either. Tons of touches. You know you're going to get that. But anyway, you might want to look at him in that position as well.
Well, while you mentioned that, actually made me think about it too. Matt Asiata, another guy that kind of makes that list because of the whole Adrian Peterson situation. But again, if you're looking at the two, I'd prefer Niall Davis over him. I think he has a better week. And again, both of them are probably going to be in a ton of lineups this weekend.
For sure. All right, wide receiver, Money in the Bank. You've got some big names here.
I got to go with my guy Brandon Marshall. Now, you know, he had the ankle injury. He was definitely slowed in that game, but he was still able to haul in some impressive catches, still put up an impressive game just from the touchdown production alone. Now, like you said, you don't want to just simply chase touchdowns, but look at what just happened last week. You know, that defense was absolutely torched by Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson. And I got to think that Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall are going to have that same special connection going on, and he's going to put up a monster game.
There's a fine line between chasing touchdowns and trying to find a trend and seeing and having some data and background information that's going to possibly predict that person blowing up again. You saw that with Josh Gordon last year where he just kept producing unbelievable games. And I wouldn't call that chasing TDs. It's just a challenge to determine whether someone's on a streak and whether someone's going to continue putting up that production. And I think some of the elements we tend to look at week over week is over-unders, looking at what Vegas is putting out. If there's a high over-under, you know they're going to be throwing, you know they're going to be running, there's going to be scores. And secondly, the matchups and your quarterback. And so I don't think Brandon Marshall's chasing right now. I think he's bound to put up something each week, and I think he's a strong play as well.
Right, and you know, without the touchdowns, you're still going to get a lot of targets. You're still going to get likely a lot of receptions, and he didn't look like he suffered any setbacks from the injury. So if he's further removed from that and even healthier, there's no reason that he can't put up a big game.
So my Money in the Bank is I'm going with Garcon again. He bombed for me last week. I'm surprised because Cousins normally targets him a ton. He was doing so last year, and I think it's going to continue. I think he's going to have a bounce-back game, and hopefully a lot of people stay away from him because I'm going to have that stack in a few lineups. I think Cousins to Garcon. We could talk more about QB later, but I like Garcon. All right, what about your coin flip?
For my coin flip, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going with Andrew Hawkins. You know, right now he's the leader in targets. He's got 6 more targets on that team than anybody else. Second is Miles Austin. So I like the matchup a little bit. You know, I think they're going to have a good matchup as far as passing the ball, getting the ball down the field, and being able to move it a bit. The offense, I mean, they just beat the Saints. You know, they're obviously not as bad as maybe we thought they were going into the season. And personally, I've always thought that Hoyer was a bit of a better quarterback, just, you know, from a passing standpoint than maybe what you get with Manziel at this point. So, you know, it is a bit of a gamble and a kind of a riskier play, but I think he's kind of one of those under-the-radar guys, a guy that's not going to be in a lot of lineups but could potentially score you a good amount of points.
All right, I like Michael Floyd. He's $200 more. He's at $5,200, and while he's going to be going against a San Francisco defense, they're not the same defense. They've given up a ton of TDs to wide receivers the last couple of games, and he's one of the best deep threats in the game right now. They're throwing it, and I think that he's a good value play, and you could call him a coin flip. All right, quarterback. Let's move to your Money in the Bank position.
Well, I already hit on it. We kind of talked about it a little bit. I'm going Jay Cutler this week. You know, same situation, same rules apply. You know, look at what happened last week. No reason it can't happen again this week.
All right. And it's also a really high over-under game. It's one of the top 3, so they're going to be airing it out. I agree. It's going to be a nice game. He's expensive, but He is money in the bank, and when you look at Matthew Stafford and some of those others, they're a bit more expensive, and I don't know that there's going to be a big discrepancy between the two.
Absolutely.
Quarterback for me, I'm going with Kirk Cousins. I love maybe I could put this in my coin flip section, but I just love the value there, and he puts up numbers. They're going to have a big game. It's I think the highest over under. Going up against Philly, they're going to have to throw it to stay with Philly, and also Drew Brees. I think that he comes back, and they're going to really put it on the Vikings. They're upset. And then it looks like you got Matt Castle going in that coin flip position to keep up with New Orleans.
I absolutely do, and pretty much the exact same rules. Look, they're going to have to pass the ball. They've got no Adrian Peterson. We already talked about that. Cordarrelle Patterson's been coming on strong. He's looked good. He's got some weapons there. He's still got Jennings too, Kyle Rudolph. Asiata, not great, but he's at least a serviceable running back. And look, this Saints defense, they're horrible right now as a defending pass. I mean, last weekend, we saw that they allowed 204 yards to Hoyer with a touchdown. So for the value that you can get for Castle, it is absolutely a coin flip, but it's a pretty good gamble to make on that one.
I like the play, and I think that's what you need to do in a GPP. And I think if you stack Castle with a Greg Jennings, Cordell with a Patterson, you could have a real shot at. I'm sure there'll be some winning lineups making money with that stack with Cassell and someone else. All right, so tight end, who do you have there? Money in the bank.
I like Greg Olsen again. I mean, look, he's the most trusted outlet for Cam Newton. He gets targeted a ton. He's great in the red zone. He gets a lot of looks in the red zone. So, his touchdown production, he's at least going to have the opportunity week in and week out. I'm going to be hard-pressed to not like Greg Olsen, in that offense until you start to see more from some of these other receivers and more out of Kelvin Benjamin as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Benjamin's questionable right now. If he's out, I think that gives Olsen a big bump. He just keeps delivering, and Newton targets him a ton. I think it was 8 targets last week. He caught 6.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good game. I like Julius Thomas. Okay, I know he's put up 4 TDs in the first 2 games. He's going against Seattle, but his salary dropped dramatically. He's actually potentially a value pick at this point. Vegas still has that game top 3 over-under in the league this week. So Julius Thomas might be a play that people stay away from this week. All right, your coin flip, tight end.
I'm going with Charles Clay. Now, I realize that he hasn't been terribly impressive, hasn't put up huge numbers, but he's been targeted a ton. And, all it takes is one big play, catching a couple touchdowns. He's used in the red zone considerably. Right now, he's been tied with Mike Wallace and Brian Hartline as the most targeted guy on that team. So, they're spreading the ball around a little bit, but he's getting a lot of looks down there. And for the price, he's got a decent matchup. Again, flipping the coin, probably not going to be in a ton of lineups. And if he has a Delaney Walker-like week for you, that's going to win you. That's going to win you some GPPs.
All right. Okay, defense. You go with my Patriots. They bounced back last week.
In a big way.
Yeah.
In a big way.
I like them as well. And I think that I was really surprised by week 1. I think week 2 is more of what they are. And I think they could continue that. You're paying a little bit more this week, but it could be worth it. To win a GPP, you need your defense to get sacks, interceptions, and potentially a TD. And the New England Patriots, they always give up a ton of yards. They bend, but they usually come up with something special in the form of a TD and turnover, so I like to play.
Well, and another thing, and this is one of the things that I mentioned, with that game, with that matchup, with that defense, you're likely not going to get the same just ridiculous stat line that they had last week. I mean, that was probably a bit of an anomaly, and we're not going to see that again more than likely. But when you look at these defenses and you're spending a little bit more money on them, you want one that has a high ceiling like what they did last week, but also doesn't have as low of a floor. So you know that the minimum, they're not going to hurt you and lose you too many points either. You're still going to get close to that 10 points that you started with.
All right. And what about your coin flip at defense?
Well, this one is truly a coin flip, and if you've read my last couple articles, I've kind of hated on them a little bit, but I'm going to the Cowboys. Yeah. I mean, look, they're I think the third cheapest right now, third or fourth cheapest on DraftKings, and they're facing St. Louis. St. Louis is an absolute dumpster fire on offense right now. They're just not really producing at enough of a rate that makes me feel like if they were just able to shut down Tennessee, they've got a really good chance of doing something special against St. Louis. So for the kind of savings that you can have there, I'm definitely going to roll with the Cowboys this week in some of my lineups, just on the off chance that they can come through for me.
Yeah, it definitely opens up some money elsewhere. You can buy some studs. So that's the end of this article. Like, you check it out online. You can get the full details at fantasyfootballmoneyleague.com. You can find us at FF Money League Twitter, and you can find Jason at Fantasy Rambler. So check us out each week. Appreciate it, Jason. Once again, man, good luck.
Hey, good luck to you, Sam. Take it easy.
All right, take care.